We return now to our Right of Way series. All this week, we've been focusing on how all of us, bikers, drivers, and pedestrians, try to safely coexist on our roadways. After the tragic death of a cyclist last fall, the town of Wellesley has been trying to figure out how to make its streets safer. But as fervent as Wellesley's desire for solutions is, making changes that really work may not be easy. Adam Riley has more.
Matt Cressy is a Wellesley resident and an avid cyclist. He bikes to work at MIT and races regularly. Last year, he logged more than 6,000 miles. As he tells it, riding in Wellesley is a mixed bag.
So when you're driving around, everyone's really kind and respectful for the most part. I never feel like someone's going to, get in a fight with me. Or I don't feel like someone's going to just cut me off, just because they think they deserve the road.
But Cressy says that while Wellesley drivers are an accommodating bunch, the town's design is not bike-friendly. Recently, Cressy agreed to show us what Wellesley looks like from above the handlebars.
Now you got to watch this blue car on the right. See how far out they are? That makes things very difficult.
As Cressy rides, he's constantly strategizing to prevent accidents and protect himself, which means staying away from high, sharp-edged curbs like this one.
So if I'm a guy that kind of rides like this, and I'm not so sure of myself, I could catch a tunnel on that curb pretty easily. That makes people pretty nervous. You would lose it. You'd be gone.
Because Cressy rides away from the edge of the street, he often occupies a hefty chunk of what many drivers consider their roads. But he says that on Wellesley's cramped streets, that's the best way to avoid being clipped by a passing car.
What I tend to do is ride like this. And people get pissed off. But guess what? They're not going to run over the back of me.
The desire to guard against worst-case scenarios is especially intense in Wellesley right now. Last year, cyclist Alex Matsenegos was struck and killed at Weston Road and Linden Street, known as a dangerous intersection. A grand jury chose not to indict the driver, and now Wellesley is taking a hard look at bike safety. A few weeks ago, the town hall was packed for a forum on how Wellesley welcomes cyclists or doesn't.
I felt safer in Los Angeles than I do in Wellesley. There aren't dedicated bike lanes, but there is room, which we don't seem to have in Wellesley.
The emotional crescendo of that meeting came when Alex Matsenegos' brother thanked the town for trying to make Wellesley a safer place to ride.
I want to ask that you don't give up on this and that you see it through. I think that's very, very important.
But making Wellesley bike-friendly won't be easy. The town's narrow roads are frequently packed to capacity, forcing bikers like Cressy to make some unorthodox decisions as they ride. Here, Cressy moves from the right of the road to the center to work through a traffic jam.
And I go up the left side, where guess what? It's almost always clear. Everybody sort of keeps a nice distance between their cars and other cars. So that's how I like to go up through traffic. It's usually, as counterintuitive as it may seem, I go up on the left side.
But bad Wellesley traffic is just one of Matt Cressy's challenges. He also says the ambiguous way some Wellesley roads are marked makes it difficult for bikes and cars to coexist.
Now in this road, see how the lane kind of disappears all of a sudden for me? This makes things confusing for the motorists. Now it opens up and things are good again.
For the record, Cressy strives to be a good citizen of the road. He stops religiously for pedestrians, signals every turn, and tries to let cars get by him when he can.
Now, on an open road like this, I will actually stay on the white line to encourage people to pass.
Cressy says he's heartened by Wellesley's bike safety push, but he adds that while a smart redesign of the town's roads could help, motorists' attitudes need to change too.
I mean, maybe this is a job for a mass highway or something, but create some sort of program that really touches the hearts of all the people of the Commonwealth, that makes them feel enthusiastic about other modes of transportation.
And until that happens, the tension between bikes and cars may be here to stay.
And Adam Riley is here along with attorney Joss Zisson, who specializes in bike accidents, and Dan McAlpin, an editor at the Ipswich Chronicle, who was in a bad bike accident himself. So, Adam, what has changed in Wellesley since they had that meeting?
So far, not much, as I understand it. Wellesley had their town meeting right after they had that hearing on bike safety. And I think that they are still trying to figure out what they're going to do with all this feedback that they got, how they're going to proceed. There's a concern in town, and this was voiced at the meeting, and it was reiterated by Hans Larson, who's the town's executive director of General Government Services, when I talked to him today. I think there's a real concern with unintended consequences. We saw those sharp-edged curves that Matt Cressy and other bikers are really worried about, because when the pedal comes down, if you're too close, you can hit it, and if you land on the curb, you could be really, really badly hurt. Hans Larson explained to me that those curbs were originally put up to protect pedestrians. There was a concern on these high-volume, high-speed roads that a car might run off the road and come up on the side. And it was, I had the exact same reaction. It hadn't occurred to me at all. I thought, why in the world would they do this? And there actually was a very good reason for doing it, but it just turns out that it's created this hazard for bikers. There's a concern, I think, in Wellesley. You know, the streets are very narrow. There's a lot of business traffic, a lot of parking with a lot of, very active shops on both sides of the street, and I think there's a concern that, say, establishing dedicated bike lanes might take away parking, which could in turn, complicate life for local businesses. So I don't know what they'll end up doing. I think now they're trying to figure out how to make changes that benefit cyclists without hurting other people.
Well, Josh, you kind of have an interesting job here, because you've sort of made a living out of bike accidents, which is horrible. But, I mean, are there more? And I mean, there are thousands more bikes in the road, but it seems like more drivers and more bikers are kind of getting it.
Getting it in what sense?
In terms of how to coexist.
Yes, and I think that's in part thanks to the increased volume of cyclists on the road. I mean, it's sort of an experiential learning process for drivers. You at first, when you're unused to driving around bikes, it can be tough. But once you get used to always checking before you take a right turn, for instance, or before you open your door, that'll make the road safer for everybody.
But, I mean, how did you come to this? Because I mean, was it that a lot of these bike accidents were sort of dismissed as, oh, well, that's just, these things happen, and, well, are we looking to find fault at this point?
Absolutely. I mean, the bike laws in Massachusetts are, I'd say, the best in the nation. And, when I saw that, I as a cyclist myself, I wanted to sort of pursue that and see if I could, find a living in it somehow. So that's how I got into it. But really, I mean, we have a unique opportunity here in Massachusetts, because the laws are so good, to really, set the pace for the nation. And hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Dan, we're going to get to your personal story in a minute or two, because we have a video that you actually recreate what happened to you. But you mostly bike up. It's pretty rural where you are, Ipswich, Boxford.
It is.
What could they do? If you look at Wellesley, that's much more suburban than rural. I mean, they can't really do anything to mark the roads there.
I think there's a problem here in that I think there's a false sense of security when you're out on a rural road, because they're not as maintained as well. The shoulder is narrower
or non-existent.
The cars tend to go faster because, hey, it's a back road and nobody's here, and they're not looking for a cyclist. Whereas when you're in an area like, I grew up in Natick, so I know Wellesley very well, and I know that area. People are always kind of looking out because there's traffic coming from a lot of different areas. When you're out on a back road in Boxford, not necessarily so. So I think that the biggest thing that the Commonwealth can do is to go on a public campaign, education campaign. Keep an eye out for cyclists on the road, that they have a right to the road. We shouldn't be on the sidewalk. People going by saying, get on the sidewalk where you belong. No, you're not supposed to be on the sidewalk. You're supposed to be on the road. And I think an education campaign would go a long way towards making the road safer, because it's awareness.
Point. However, I'm going to say this about your guy Cressy there.
Yeah.
I mean, he did that thing where he came up on the left. Now, no one is going to be looking for a cyclist on the left. You don't know if somebody's going to quickly open the driver's door to pour out some coffee, or what are they going to do? I mean,
sure.
Whose fault would that be? If he
that would be the driver's
doored,
fault. If he got doored, that would be the driver's fault.
Even though he came up on the left?
Absolutely, yeah. Bikers can pass on the left or on the right, unlike cars. So, I mean, it goes back to the rights to the road, and bikers actually have...
But he was weaving and kind of blew right through everybody.
Even so, there's a law that says it's illegal to open your door without looking if it would cause injury to other traffic, including bicycles. So, it's pretty cut and dry.
And that's fascinating to me, because when I saw him, and Matt was a terrific tour guide, and it was, we really appreciated him taking the time to show us around the way he did. But when I saw him, some of the times when he would split traffic, just watching the video now, my stomach gets a little uneasy. And
your stomach gets a little uneasy.
When he went up on the left, that really kind of made me hold my breath. So it is surprising to me to hear Josh say that, in fact, he's fully within his rights to do that.
You kind of teased people about your story, Dan. Yeah. So I just wanted, this is something that you shot and edited, and you posted it at the Ipswich. So I just want to show people, and then we'll.
Well, actually, my photo chief, Kirk Williamson, did it, but I was he did the interview.
You tell the story. So this is an edited version, but here's Dan's story.
I chose that route was because it doesn't have a lot of traffic. It's a lot of country roads. So, I just was on my route, was enjoying the day, it was sunny. The road takes a big swing to the left, and just before I got to that, I just literally was thinking, boy, what a beautiful day. I'm so lucky to be alive. And literally I was just kind of thank God that I had the chance to be there at that time, enjoying the day the way I was. And the road takes that big swing to the left, and I slowed down, and I'm trying to watch the traffic coming from my right that might be coming on to the main road. It's basically a three-way intersection there. It's a little bit tricky, and so I was looking over my shoulder to the right, I think, looking for traffic to make sure I wasn't going to be hit from traffic coming onto the main road, and kind of looking straight ahead. And I really don't remember much about the accident at all. I do remember kind of hearing like a kind of a dull thunking kind of a sound, searing heat going through my body. Not so much pain, but just feeling searing heat. Maybe that was pain. I don't know. And then a quick sliding across a piece of glass, which must have been the windshield. And then I don't really remember anything. There was a lot of beeping and lots of fast talking back and forth, and tubes and stuff like that. And then the whole scene started to shake, and there was a loud noise. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, they're med-flighting me. This can't be good. I remember being in the emergency room. My daughters were there. The nurse took my hand and put my hand in each of my daughters' hands, and that's all I remember until like a week later, when the doctors were waking me up, and they started pulling tubes out of me and stuff like that, asking me, what my name was, what month it was, who was president of the United States.
Wow, that's quite a story. Now, did you actually have brain damage?
I had I think, a pretty severe concussion. I think
were you wearing a helmet, I should ask?
Yes, I was, absolutely. They said that saved my life. I remember trying to decide whether I should go with the more expensive, the $20 extra for the Bell helmet, or buy the cheaper model. And I thought, well, I'll spring for the $20 and get the better helmet. And they said that was one of the things that saved my life.
Now, was the driver of the vehicle cited?
Yes, for making an unsafe turn. Yeah.
And they just, what was his excuse or her excuse?
The sun was in his eyes, and he couldn't see me. Yeah.
So they recreated, you don't know which, well, anyway, exactly what happened. But
to which I say, if you can't see where you're going, you don't keep plowing forward. I mean, I saw kind of what happened by going back with Kirk and visiting the scene. The cars coming that were been going again on the other side of the road, they just bear left, and they just swing left. Yeah. And most of them don't slow down. They don't put on a blinker. I even saw a huge dump truck. It was about literally the size of a ranch house. It was one of those three-tired dump trucks. Didn't put on a blinker, didn't slow down, just swung right through that intersection. And unfortunately, I was coming across that road when he swung through, and he just smacked right into me.
Wow, that's quite dramatic, really.
Yeah, I had no warning at all that it was going to happen. It wasn't like I looked, oh my God, there's a car coming. It was just came out of nowhere while I was on my bike.
Did you have other injuries besides?
All these ribs here on my left side were crushed. 2 ribs on my right side were broken, 2 vertebrae. My collarbone, my scapula was shattered. I had microfractures from my sunglasses hitting me in the face all around my my eye orbits and across my nose. And as I said, I a punctured lung, lacerated spleen. And as I said, they didn't expect me. They told my daughters that they didn't expect me to live.
Look at that windshield, and that was really, really dramatic. Have you ever seen an accident this dramatic in your practice?
No, I certainly have not. And it's a wonder that you're.
No, it's a miracle. I mean, I'm lucky that it happened outside Boston. The people at Mass General. That my surgeons knew of this experimental operation to save my ribs. Fewer than 1,000 people in the world have ever had it done. And if this had happened, somewhere else, I probably would be dead.
Yeah, well, that speaks to our incredible medical facilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here,
I got to ask Dan. I actually used to work with Dan for a few years at a community newspaper company. Are you riding again?
No. First of all, I can't get up on a bicycle and support myself. And second of all, I think I would be a danger to myself and everybody else around me because I would just be so nervous on the bicycle. I think I might be able to convince myself to get a trail bike and ride on trails without traffic, but to weave in and out of traffic like the subject of your I was just screaming.
Were you an experienced rider?
I've been riding for a long time. I'm more of a runner than cycling was always kind of my thing to kind of augment my running. So I never belonged to a cycling group or anything like that. But I've been riding for years and years and years. So
Well, let me ask you, Judge. Does that matter? Does the experience of a biker? Do you take that in consideration? Because we saw some crazy stuff. We've been shooting all week. I mean, just from people just completely out to lunch, going the wrong way against traffic. But according to you, it almost doesn't matter.
Well, it matters. I mean, it certainly matters in terms of safety on the road. But when it comes to rights on the road, if you're not breaking the rules, if you're going the right way on the street, and if you're staying straight in your lane and doing everything that you should be, you have a right to be on the road. And so that's sort of the starting point. But experience certainly does matter. You just get used to riding out with traffic and being close to cars and safely anticipating where they're going to go, what they're going to do, and looking for the blinker. But when you're making a right turn, or if you're going straight, stuff like that is just you have to pick it up. It's not something that you can really read in a book,
I think one of the things that you just said is really important, that cyclists have to have the responsibility to know you're supposed to use your hand signals, you're supposed to stop at stop signs, you're supposed to stop at crosswalks to let pedestrians go by. You have rules that you have to follow as well. And if you're on one of those wheel clubs or whatever, you can't be riding 2, 3, 4 cycles abreast. No, it's not the Tour de France. These.
Yeah, you do see that a lot in the suburbs too.
Yeah, and and I don't blame drivers for getting frustrated when that happens. You have to follow the rules too. Evidently, your subject was following the rules. I didn't think you could do that, and I would never have done that. Yeah. I don't have the guts. I would have slowed right down and probably gotten unclipped and walked through that part of the traffic because I wouldn't have swung out that way.
The question is though, does that absolve drivers when it comes to a question of who was at fault? Well, you saw a number of cyclists running red lights, doing breaking all the rules. I certainly don't ride that way.
I got to go. Unfortunately, we're out of time here.
Oh, thank you. I completely understand.
Thank you all for being here. It's been a great Right of Way series. Tomorrow night is our last of our week-long series, Right of Way. All this week we've been doing that. I'm Emily Rooney. Thanks for watching.